For lesson 4.4, we are looking at multi-step inequalities. So these could include distributive property, combining like terms, or they could include both. We also may have variables on both sides of the inequality. But again, the most important thing is that negative. So we're going to flip the inequality. If multiply, divide by negative. I know we've written this a lot of times now, but it's very important to remember. All right, so we're going to start with number 1. This is an example of having like terms we can combine. So before I start solving this, I'm noticing that I've got a 4x and a 2x, and they're on the same side. So I can simplify that. As long as they're on the same side, it can be simplified. 4x and 2x would be 6x. And I'm going to keep that 12 the same, is less than negative 18. And now I can go ahead and begin solving. So opposite of plus 12, I'm going to do minus 12 on both sides. Positive 12, negative 12, that makes 0. We always want to check that it makes 0. And then negative 18 minus 12 would be negative 30. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 6. X is, it's going to stay less than, because yes, I'm dividing, but I'm dividing by a positive 6, so the sign stays the same. And then negative 30 divided by 6 is negative 5. Again, let's go ahead and put that number in the middle. I don't have to fill in those. You can if you want to. I need to have an open circle, because it does not have the equal to part. And I want values that are less than negative 5. Values to the left will be less than or smaller than negative 5. Number 2, we've got a distributive property. Again, that's when we take the outside number times everything inside. So 2 times negative 2x would be negative 4x. And 2 times a positive 3 is a positive 6. And then we stop that because we're done with the parentheses. So we just drop down the greater than or equal to 14. No like terms, so I can just start solving. Opposite of positive 6 is a minus 6 or a negative 6. That makes 0. A negative 4x greater than or equal to 14 minus 6 would be 8. And then I can divide by negative 4. And then I've got that dividing by a negative step. So then that means I have to flip my inequality. It becomes less than or equal to. And then 8 divided by negative 4 is negative 2. My negative 2 in my number line. I need a filled in circle because it has the equal to part. And I want values that are less than or equal to, so that's to the left. The numbers get smaller, so less than to the left. Number 3, we've got another distributive property. 3 times x is 3x, because there's really a 1 in front of that x. So we're doing 3 times 1 is 3. And then this is a negative 3, or I can do adding the opposite if that helps. So I'm taking 3 times a negative 3, which is a negative 9, or I can also write plus negative 9. That works also. It is less than or equal to 18. And then I'm going to add 9 to both sides to make that 0. 3x is less than or equal to 27. And then we're going to divide both sides by 3. X is, I divided by positive, so the sign stays less than or equal to. And then 27 divided by 3 is 9. Put my 9 on my number line. I want a filled in circle because it has the equal to part. And values that are less than or equal to, that's going to go to the left. Number 4. So here's our first one where we have variables on both sides. So I cannot just add those together. I can't say 2x and 6x makes 8x because they're on different sides. If they're on different sides or they're on opposite sides, we have to do the opposite to get those together. So I can either do minus 2x on both sides or I can do minus 6x. It does not make a difference. I'm going to choose to do minus the 6x. So again, when they're on opposite sides, you need to do the opposite to combine those like terms. 2x minus 6x is negative 4x. Then I've got a plus 3, and drop down my less than sign, and this is a negative 1. Don't forget that minus sign has to stay with that 1, becomes a negative 1. And now I can just continue solving like normal. So the opposite of positive 3 is negative 3. So I get negative 4x is less than negative 4. I need to divide both sides by negative 4. And x is, there's that step again, I'm dividing by a negative. I multiply, divide by a negative. I gotta flip the sign so it becomes greater than. And negative 4 divided by negative 4 is a positive 1. And put 1 on my number line. I want an open circle because it does not have the equal to part. Now values for x that are greater than, so numbers to the right are numbers that are greater than 1. Number 5 is another one with variables on both sides. So again, because they're on opposite sides, I need to do the opposite. So I'm going to do opposite of 7 is negative 7x. 3x minus 7x is negative 4x. Bring down my minus 2 is greater than, and again, this is a negative 10, because I haven't used that minus sign yet. And then I can continue like normal. Opposite of minus 2 is plus 2 on both sides. So we have negative 4x is greater than negative 8. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 4. And then there's my step again. I'm dividing by a negative, so that inequality sign has to flip. So it becomes x is less than, and then negative 8 divided by negative 4 is a positive 2. So I'm going to 2 in my number line. I want an open circle, and we're going to go values that are less than, so that's going to be to the left. And then our last one, we've got a couple different steps. I do have variables on both sides, but I've got distributive property on this left side, so I'm going to take care of distributive property first. Typically, to make it easier, I think, is I would do any distributive property, any like terms first before I start moving variables back and forth. I've got negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times a positive 4 is a negative 8. Greater than or equal to, let me just bring this all down. Now there's no like terms on the same side, but there are on the opposite sides. So because they're on opposite sides, I need to do the opposite. I'm going to choose to do minus 6x. Negative 2x, negative 6x, that makes negative 8x minus 8. Greater than, again, I got that negative 4 on the right-hand side. And now I'm going to continue to isolate the variables. So we're going to get plus 8. I get a negative 8x is greater than 4. Negative 4 plus 8 is positive 4. Divide by negative 8. There's that step again. We're dividing by a negative. We multiply, divide by a negative. We gotta flip the sign, so it becomes x is less than negative 4 over 8, or that's the same thing as negative 1/2, because I can divide both by 2. 4 divided by, divide by 4 actually. I can divide both by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So I'm gonna put negative 1/2 on my number line. I want an open circle. I want values that are less than. And then any note you want to make off to the left-hand side. So maybe we want to write that if variables are on opposite sides, do the opposite. Maybe you want to make a note on something like this here on how do you reduce a fraction, and any other thing that would help you in the future.